Okay, we're rolling. Would you please state your full name?
Wesley Thomas Raleigh.
In what branch of the service did you serve?
I served in the United States Marine Corps.
How long were you in the military?
20 years.
And your date of induction?
My date of enlistment was 26 December 1966.
And discharge?
1 February 1987.
Were you drafted or did you enlist in the military?
I enlisted.
Why did you choose to enlist?
Because I was either going to be drafted because I'd gone and got my draft physical, so I was classified as 1A. So it was either be drafted or join the military.
Why did you choose to join the Marine Corps?
Well, the Marine Corps was kind of an accident because I went to see the Army recruiter, and when I got to the federal building, I went up the stairs to the federal building, and all the doors were closed except one. And so anyhow, there was a man sitting in there behind a desk, and at that time, I didn't know uniforms or anything. And he said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yes, sir. I come to see about enlisting." And he said, "Why is that?" And I said, "Well," I said, "I scored second highest in the state on the AVAB test, and I come to see about enlisting." And he said, "Come in. Have I got a deal for you?"
And why did you join the service?
Well, like I said, it was either go be drafted for 2 years and not know where you were going to go, or enlist and pretty much choose your own destiny.
Can you describe the first days that you were in the service?
Well, when I first got to Parris Island, we got there at 3 o'clock in the morning. Marine Corps does that specifically to disorient you and just pretty much confuse you. So our first morning there, we got our haircuts and everything, and we didn't get back to the receiving barracks until it was a little bit afternoon when we were back at receiving barracks. Because I went the day after Christmas, Parris Island was pretty much shut down for the holidays. So our drill instructors weren't going to pick us up until right before New Year's. So we stayed in receiving barracks for almost a week.
Mm-hmm. And what did that first day in the service feel like to you? Were you nervous, homesick?
No, it was. I mean, you were constantly kept on the go like that, so you really didn't have a chance to reflect on anything much.
Mm-hmm. And was entering the service what you had expected it to be?
Well, when I was in the receiving barracks, because everybody said Marine Corps was the hardest place to go to and one thing and another and how rough they were. But it was pretty nice at receiving because we'd go out and in the morning they'd come in. They were real nice. We'd go to chow. We'd come back, and I'm thinking, wow, if this is hard.
Yeah, and describe a normal day in the initial days of service.
Well, our normal day started at 0500 West Reveille. We'd get up, they'd do roll. They'd make sure everybody was there from the night before. We'd get dressed, and we'd go downstairs and do PT. We'd run 3 miles and do our regular PT, and we'd come back, get cleaned up, and then we'd go to breakfast. And then after breakfast, we'd go back to the squad bay and commence our training for the day, whatever that may be. And then at noon, we'd go to chow. And then in the afternoon after chow, we'd do the same thing, commence training again until evening chow. Mm-hmm. And then in the evening, It was we'd be in the squad bay going over various things and lessons that we were learned during the day with the drill instructors. And then supposedly from 0800 to, from 2000 to 2100 was quiet time. That's when you could pretty much do anything you wanted within the squad bay, shine your shoes, write letters, get cleaned up, things like that. And at 2100, that was taps, and that was the end of our day until 0500 next morning.
Mm-hmm. And what were your instructors like?
Well, they were pretty much demons from hell. I never knew there was so many ferocious people in all my life, but they trained us hard, and their whole mission was that when we left that island, we were going to leave as Marines.
Mm-hmm. And did you have a specific job assignment during boot camp training?
Such as?
Like cleaning the grounds near the base.
The whole platoon had job. I mean, everybody. It was all teamwork. That's what the Marine Corps stresses: is teamwork. Nobody had one specific job.
Okay. And was the transition to the military easy or difficult for you?
It was rather easy for me. After I got over the initial shock of being at Parris Island, things went rather smoothly.
Mm-hmm. And why was that so easy?
Well, it was just, for one thing, Marine Corps was a lot like being, we were brought up back then, We had respect for elders and one thing and another. And we did as we were told.
Mm-hmm. Did you receive specialized training, and if so, in what areas?
Well, after I finished boot camp, and then I went to Camp Geiger for ITR, which is advanced infantry training. After Camp Geiger, I was sent to Redstone Arsenal in Alabama for a Hawk Missile System school. I was an internal guidance and launcher mechanic.
Mm-hmm. And what did you do?
Well, my primary job was to work on the missile, the launcher, and all associated missile equipment that went with, like the loader and things like that. We repaired the hydraulics and electronics on the launcher and on the missile, and did mechanical work on the loader.
Okay. And what was your rank when you completed boot camp and or after additional training?
I was private when I finished boot camp, and then when I got done with Hawk School, which was 9 months, I was a Lance Corporal when I went out to the battalion.
Mm-hmm. And was your job assignment made by your superiors, or did you get to choose?
No, that was chosen for me.
And where did you complete basic training?
I completed basic training at Parris Island, South Carolina.
After basic training, what camps were you stationed in?
Well, from Parris Island, I went to Camp Geiger for ITR. Then I went to Redstone Arsenal for school at the Marine Corps Detachment there. After school, I got transferred out to Yuma, Arizona with 5th Land Battalion. I was in H&S battery out there. 1969, towards the end of 69, after Second Lambs came back from Vietnam, they disbanded 5th Lambs and we became Detachment Alpha of 2nd Lamb Battalion. after, and then in February of 1970, I got transferred to Albany, Georgia, to repair depot, repairing the hawk equipment. From the depot, I went back to school at Fort Bliss, Texas, for OC school, which was Operation Central School and Hawk Missile Simulator School. That was almost 10 months. From there, I went back to 2nd Land Battalion and was in H&S Battery. From 2nd Land Battalion, I went to 3rd Land Battalion, performing the same duties. And then from 3rd Land Battalion, I went to school back at Redstone for Hawk Missile Supervisors. And then from school, that school lasted it was over a year, it was almost 13 months. I went from there to Albany, Georgia, and worked in provisioning division, going out buying parts for new equipment and one thing. From Albany, I went back to 3rd Land Battalion at Cherry Point as a Hawk Missile Supervisor.
Mm-hmm. Were you ever deployed overseas?
No, our unit came back from Vietnam in '68, so we never went overseas.
Were you able to make friends in the service?
Sure, I have a lot of them, even to this day.
Have any friendships lasted beyond your military service time?
Sure. I've been retired for over 20 years now, almost 30 years.
Could you name some of those that have lasted for a long time?
You mean by name?
Yeah.
Well, there's one kid that worked for me. He worked for me out at Yuma. He was a corporal then, and he also retired. He lives in Yuma. There's another person that lives. In fact, there's quite a few Hawk people that live in Yuma, and there are few people in Cherry Point that I know, but I haven't really kept up with them.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe friendships from military service are as strong, or in some cases stronger, than family ties?
Yes, in the Marine Corps, we're all brothers, and that's the whole thing. And if one of us is in need or in trouble, he can pretty much rely on the rest of them coming to his aid.
Were you often able to maintain contact with your family?
Yes, we could. At boot camp, in fact, we were required to write at least one letter home a week. Woe be unto the person who did not write their mother at home, because if mother called at Parris Island, he caught it the next day.
And was your mail and messages and stuff censored?
No, not that I know
of. Did you have access to high-tech communication?
Well, we were at boot camp? No. We didn't even, in fact, when I was at boot camp when the Apollo astronauts got killed in the one Apollo launch.
Mm-hmm.
It was the next day that drill instructor just informed us of that, but that was it. We had no TV, no telephones. We just had the squad bay and us.
Did your contact with family help your morale?
I think it did, yes.
Can you explain that in further detail?
Well, it was always nice to receive letters from home and one thing and another, and know what was going on back home. It sort of brought spirits up a little bit from the grueling days that we endured there. Uh, the one thing the first letter you wrote home, you cautioned everybody, do not send any goodies in because that was a big taboo down there. So all we got was letters.
What caused the most stress whenever you were in the service?
I can't really say that I was ever really stressed while I was there. Really not. I mean, it's everybody was there. We all pitched in. We did things. If somebody was having a problem, everybody joined in and helped them with that problem. So in the Marine Corps, I can't really say we were stressed that much.
Did you carry anything or believe in something that brought you luck? Like rabbit's foot or anything?
No, I didn't.
Did you have good non-coms and regular officers?
I thought in the Marine Corps, all your non-commissioned officers and officers are fairly good. The NCOs and staff NCOs in the Marine Corps are, in order to become one, you go up through the ranks and you learn that you look out for the people below you, and that's the way leadership goes. And they had superior leadership traits and principles. And as far as officers we didn't have a whole lot of contact with, but it was usually the NCOs and staff NCOs that controlled what we were doing.
Mm-hmm. And how important was a good leader or officer to you?
Well, a good leader is essential to the well-being of the unit. The unit looks up to the leader for direction. In the Marine Corps, it's everybody that looks to that one individual that's going to get them through whatever situation they're in.
What did you do on leave?
Pardon?
What did you do on leave?
Well, when I'd go on leave, I'd go home, just look, check different people out and one thing and another. Later I'd take leave and just stay at home for a week or so while I was at the base. Just normal, everyday things.
Did you ever see a USO tour?
We saw, trying to remember, Camp Geiger, we went into the USO club, but I can't remember who was there. That was a big treat for us.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a chance to travel other than military travel, like as a tourist anywhere?
Well, at various duty stations, you always, after you got to your duty stations, you always had the weekends pretty much to yourself, unless you were out in the field on operation or a fire X. So, yes, I saw a good bit. Like I saw the Grand Canyon. We went, 4 of us, drew our sleeping bags out of battalion supply and went up and spent the weekend in the Grand Canyon. So travel, we weren't restricted as to where we could go.
Mm-hmm. And did you see or personally experience any form of discrimination in the service?
No, I didn't see that in the Marine Corps.
Did you keep a personal diary?
No, I did not.
Did anything humorous or unusual occur during your time in the service? No, not really anything unusual. About
one of the things that really, and it wasn't humorous, but one of the things that really stood out that I remember, and he just now passed away, was I met, uh, uh, he was staff sergeant when I met him because I was staff sergeant too, but Pittman, he'd won the Congressional Medal of Honor, which I thought was pretty, and he was one of the most humble people I've ever met.
Did you make the military a career?
Yes.
Why?
Well, when I got ready to, when my enlistment was coming to an end in the Marine Corps, job situation out in civilian life was atrocious. There was no jobs to be had. And I liked what I was doing. And so it really, and plus when I re-enlisted at that time, I received it, and it may not sound like a lot, but I received a $10,000 bonus for re-enlisting. And then I went to another school. So, education and just being in the Marine Corps, it grows on you after a while.
Describe actually arriving home after, like, being away from your family.
You mean like when I came back from boot camp? Or?
Yeah.
Well, we'd go, after I finished ITR and had my orders to go to Huntsville to school, I went home on leave, which, was pretty nice. And then a lot of times when we deploy out within the borders of the United States, we deploy. I remember I was gone for 3 months one time out in Nevada on an exercise. So, it was just like anybody else goes somewhere and then comes home.
Mm-hmm. And did you immediately find a job and return to work after you left the Marine Corps?
After I retired, I didn't immediately find a job. I found a couple jobs, little jobs, but being retired, I had an income coming in from my retirement pay. So, a job wasn't an essential, but eventually I did find full-time employment.
Mm-hmm. And where did you work?
Oh, I worked at various places. At my first job after I got out, I worked in Albany, Georgia, delivering parts for an auto supply house. Then I worked in Havelock, North Carolina, as a technical writer, writing technical manuals. Then when I came here to Pennsylvania, I worked out at shoe factory for a little bit. And then I went out and had a job working at a TV repair shop. I also, after I left that job, I worked with a stonemason for one summer, repointing buildings and one thing and another. Mm-hmm. Then I worked at the railroad till they laid me off. Then I worked down in Mount Union at Bonnie Forge. But all those jobs I worked at, something was missing from it. And I finally got a job. I became a corrections officer for the state of Pennsylvania. And that was the closest thing I ever had to being in the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm. And did you ever attend school after you retired from the Marine Corps?
Yes, I've taken courses at Penn State. I've taken correspondence courses. Various places that I've worked sent me to various schools. So yes.
Did you use the benefits of the GI Bill?
No.
Did you attend unit service reunions?
I haven't attended any of our reunions. We're going to have one this summer in Harrisburg for the battalions, all the Hawk battalions.
Did you join a veterans organization?
Yes, I'm a member of the Marine Corps League here in State College.
Do you take part in veterans parades?
Yes, every Memorial Day, I go back to my hometown and march in the Memorial Day parade back there.
And how did military service affect your life? Was it a positive experience?
It was a very positive experience. In fact, I think anybody that is pondering what they want to do after graduation should look into going into the military.
Did your military experience influence your views on today's military and war conflicts?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it did. I believe that we need a strong military. I believe we need a strong leader in office to allow our military to do their job. The Gulf War, the first Gulf War proved that, where they let the generals do their job.
So I'm assuming that you're a registered voter?
Yes.
And you vote in like all
Yes.
elections?
Voting is a right. Voting is a right that I served this country for everybody to have. And it's like any other right. If you do not exercise your right, you will lose it. Look at World War II Germany. The people weren't exercising their rights, and slowly their rights were eroded.
Do you think that you would enlist in the military today?
You betcha. If they called, I'm gone. And that would be the Marine Corps too, incidentally. Yeah.
And you feel that participation in our democratic government is a right that you believe is essential?
Yes, I do. I think everybody should participate. If you're not running for an office, vote. Vote for somebody that you think is going to be capable of performing the job you want done.
And would you like to add anything to the interview that was not covered, or that you may have remembered after the question was asked and or answered?
No, not at this time.
Would you like to ask me anything regarding the interview?
No.
Okay, that's it.
Okay.